Hello and welcome to the Workouts for Older Men podcast. I am Skip LaCour and I'm so glad you are joining me for today's podcast. Hey, I know there's so much fitness information out there, finding the right information for you. Forget about your age, for your goals, your priorities, this exercise, this diet, what's the best for you? With all this information, I know how confusing it is. You're making a guess, you're assuming this works for you. In your situation, but you hear so many different things. I understand that frustration. I want to talk about how you tailor a workout or a diet to fit your needs. Again, whether you're an older man or you're a man with your specific goals, right? Some guys might want to build a lot of muscle, and they have enough size. Maybe they're undersized. Maybe they don't weigh enough. Or you have a dad bod and you got to lose 20 pounds of the stubborn fat that you think you've done everything for, right? There's different goals. What's the right workout for you? What's the right diet for you? How do you know? How do you know? Well, hey, one way to know is to reach out to me. Go to my skiplacour.com website, fill out the questionnaire. I'll reach out to you. We could talk about your particular situation. All right, so you don't have to watch all these different videos, all these influencers, whether they're younger or older, with all of this information. I could be your personal coach, your personal teacher, come to you right where you are and explain what you need to do. And not just tell you what to do with as far as an eating plan or a workout. You'll know why this is the best for you. So when you hear about that other training routine from that younger guy who's talking about how important it is, you'll be able to understand in context why there are so many different diets, right? The carnivore diet, intermittent fasting, all right, whatever it may be. You won't be on one, putting your effort there and a hope that you're on the right one, but always doubting along the way. I can help cut through all this frustration, confusion, overwhelm, and be your personal coach. Reach out to me in the description of this podcast. It'll tell you how to reach out to me. I got many ways to help you reach your goals, many different programs. One will fit your goals, your budget, your priorities, your values. I want to do that for you, right? So, but I want to give you value in this podcast of how to go about it. Maybe help you understand why you may be so confused with all this information. Why is it so confusing? All right, so, there's one thing that I'll say over and over again to help you understand as you're watching all these videos on all your social media platforms, all the different training routines, all the different eating plans, all the different diets, all right? Let me just tell you something. This is how it works. And I tell you, as an influencer, as a coach, as a podcaster, I get it. I get how it's tough to communicate with you as an influencer with my sincere desire to help you reach your goals. And I also understand from your point of view how, you're more than willing to do the work. You're listening to the podcast, you're watching the videos, and you're still confused, right? But what you need to understand is, and I estimate 90% of the information that is presented on the internet, a lot of times by these young influencers, 90% of it really doesn't make a difference. I mean, it's a personal preference, or it's a theory or an opinion of the best way to do it that makes it optimal. A lot of times it's not backed by science, and even if it was, it's not going to make a difference. If you're doing it, you're doing it, and you're doing it consistently, and you're doing it in a sustainable manner that fits your lifestyle. The way you're doing it versus this new way of eating or working out isn't going to make a difference. And a lot of times, 90% of the information that is presented to you is not going to make a difference, even if you adopted it, even if you follow through with it 100%, even if you follow through with it 100% for a long period of time, it's not going to be this game-changing difference, because 90% of the information that's presented is just the fluff, the extras, the personal opinion, a new slant on the basics. So if you're doing the basics, you understand you're doing the basics, this little slant isn't going to make a difference. But how would you know? To you, it may seem like, wow, this is a game changer. Oh, I'm not holding the apparatus as I'm doing lat pull downs that way. I had it wide, and he's saying the best way is to have it closer, your hands closer together. Maybe that's why my back isn't developing the way it should. Or maybe even think that's not why I have the body, where it may have nothing to do with that, whether you have it close together or wide. It's not making the difference. That most of the information is things like that. You just may not understand that. Well, Skip, why don't they give me the basic things that really matter? How do I know? How would I know if all the information is the stuff that doesn't matter? That's all I have to go on. Well, I get it. I get the frustration, right? I get your frustration. Why don't you just tell me the basics that work and pound it and explain it to me and just tell me and then tell me all that other stuff? It doesn't matter. On my TikTok channel, I'm really thinking about doing that, is all these neat little tips that these younger, passionate fitness experts are giving you that look so cool. They look so great. Such a great camera angle and all the graphics and all the words and all the flashy things going by. It looks like a great package, a great presentation, but it doesn't really matter. I'm thinking about, what they call stitching, getting that video and saying, hey, that's great. He's great. I love his energy. That is a personal. I personally like that preference. I think I'm going to try that for a little. But guess what? As an older guy with a busy, productive life, it's not going to make a difference. This is what matters, and that might enhance it a little, but maybe 1%, 10%. This is what's important. Try that if you want, but that strategy isn't going to make the impact. All right? And I could go through 90% of all the videos and give you that perspective that you should have as a man with who's a little bit older, have a busy, productive life. You just want to get it done. You don't want to become a fitness influencer. You don't want to necessarily go down the deep rabbit hole if it's not going to produce results. So I'm thinking about doing that with my TikTok channel, with creating a stitch where I would have them do it first and then add my comment to you. Again, I want the young guys to go for it, spend 2 hours in the gym, do all these little things. They love it. It's their whole life. You may love it too, but you don't have the time for it. It's not sustainable to add all these things. But again, 90% of the information is like that. When it comes, the carnivore diet, intermittent fasting, you can talk about all the science behind both of them, but they're not diametrically opposing and conflicted with each other because they both have organizing principles that make them all work. But you got to know that, you got to understand that, you got to appreciate that. So when you go through the journey and things aren't happening as quickly as you want, you know to keep on keeping on because you know the organizing principles, right? But 90% of the information. And so why would they do that to me, Skip? Why would they confuse me? Why wouldn't they just give me the basic work? Okay, for two reasons. Number one, you're bored. You, maybe not you, general population, putting out the information. All right? When they put those basics, tried and true things that you need to know, you need to get better at, you need to be consistent with, you need to hang in there and just keep on doing those to higher levels. Crickets. Nobody listens to that. Nobody likes it. Nobody shares it. Nobody comments on it. So when somebody else in your position with the same thinking as you in the same position in life, why are they going to listen to the video that bores you and it bores everybody else like you and there's no likes and this and that? But yet when the guy tells me very passionate, looks so great that to hold my hands closer on a lat pull down, that gets 1 million likes and 1 million comments. All right? Why wouldn't you think that's the most important thing? So it's presented that way because that's what you unknowingly want and request, and you don't respond to the basics that work. You don't respond to it. And then when you and other people don't respond to it, it isn't viewed as valuable. Right? So that's why 90% is all the frilly stuff. I'll tell you, I'm kind of going through this myself. Right? Because when I get you one-on-one coaching, I can explain all this and sort it all out and get you results. Right? But on the internet, if I don't get your attention, you'll never know what I have to say. You'll never go on this journey. You'll be doing those things that seem like game changers because of all the likes and the shares and the comments, and it does seem unique and different, right? So I was thinking, I use, for example, basic machines because when you hit a muscle group, you don't need 1 million different ways to hit it, and you don't need all these different fancy new exercises and things like that. Right, but what I realize as I go on, to the gym and has these neat machines, I think they're neat. I think they're cool. Well, if I showed them, hey, I'm going to do this neat routine, it's not going to make my abs better, but it's a cool machine. It's a great visual. I'm going to start doing those because it'll draw attention. Right? Because if I don't get your attention, you're not going to be listening to my podcast and benefit from them. So that is the trap of why this information is presented that way. Number one, it's you and other people don't respond. It doesn't stand out like it's so important. And here's the other thing. The influencers don't want to do stuff. They got to be really stick to their constitution and what they do, right? To know, hey, I'm giving them what they need. I only get 3 likes, but I'm going to keep on doing it because that's the right thing. They're not going to do that. And who knows? Maybe they're bored about talking the same old things. Just like you're bored, or a lot of men like you're bored. So that's why all of this information seems to be so conflicting, and why 90% isn't what you need, right? This is the way that you need to go about it, right? So a lot of times, men think everybody is different, right? Figuring out, it's just trial and error, and I can't follow that routine or what this one says because everybody's different. Like everybody responds differently. It does not respond so differently as you might think as far as a training program and a diet. All right, I'm not saying everybody responds the same way, but it's not massively different. It's just their body's ability to build muscle, lose body fat at what rate. That's what makes it different. But it's not that if this guy used this training routine where this guy used this other one, and they both gave it 100%, one would pick the right one for his body and grow massive muscle. But if he used the other one, he wouldn't. It doesn't work that way, even though you may hear that or that may seem logical. Right? So what you need to do to tailor a routine for you got to find somebody you trust and just put all your energy. This is what happens a lot of times. I've got men who really love what I say and they adopt it. And then what they do is start adding more to it or their own versions of it where it's no longer the organizing principles of what makes it work. It's no longer that. Maybe they got results. Maybe it made sense to them. Maybe they were more consistent with it. All right. But then they homogenize it. They come up with their own version where it's really not the same. Now, if you're getting the results, then hey, have a ball. All right. But start somewhere, right, for where you can. And again, you got to think what's sustainable with a workout and with, a diet. Because there's a lot of times where you're sick and tired of being where you are. You're really motivated. Here we're at the first of the year. You're really motivated, right? And so I'm going to go to the gym every single day. I'm at a thing just, as a business thing, right? And where I don't need to work out every day. But hey, there's other benefits to working out every day, right? Is that sustainable for me? This is my business, training for 365 days. Is that sustainable? Is that too ambitious? Hey, who knows? It might be. But at least I know what I'm doing, right? If you start on a program, and what if you do work out every single day, or you work 6 days a week or 5 days a week, and you're 2 hours a day because you're willing to do that, and then you get results, right? You get results. But then you realize, man, I can't spend too much time, the time in the gym, right? But now you think it was all that time in the gym that got you the results, right? You spend all that time, you got the results. You don't spend that time, you won't get the results, or so you think. Right, same thing with a nutritional plan. You deprive yourself of foods and calories for a long period of time because you can eat rocks. Right now, you're still committed, at least for now, until you're not getting the results anymore, and then you're not motivated. You got to start off with what's sustainable and works now, and maybe you need some help getting that. But I would start. What can I do? Not just now at the beginning of this journey, but if you can kind of know that I can't keep this up, no matter how motivated I am. Then what you do is you get a diet plan as far as you got to find the calories that you can live on now when you're motivated, but when you're not that motivated, it's a good mix. It's sustainable. Same thing, how much time you spend to the gym, how many hours that you're going to be there, right? You got to start with what you can do. Then you learn how to get the most out of those 3 days in the gym because there is a way to do it. But if you give yourself more time, you'll never force your way to learn that way, how to get it done in that time. Same thing with if you just go with a diet plan that's too restrictive with the foods that you eat, it has too few calories, and you don't have energy, and it worked at the beginning. You might think that's the only way to do it, but it's not. And then now you're harmed in the future because you think it takes all that time in the gym, all that strict dieting, and you're not going to do that anymore, where that was never the case. You got to start with what you can do with the diet, right, and what you can do with the training program, and then find the power to make that most effective. Now, who knows? That's just a guess for you at this point. You don't have the experience to know what it is exactly you need to do. Nobody's shared with you, explained it to you. You try to hear what you could, from the internet, all right? You might guess too much work. It's still, you cut it down to what's sustainable, but it's still too much work that you need to do. But at least you can fit it in. All right. Or you might guess that with standards too low, too little time. See, but you got to go on that trial and error journey if you're ever going to make this happen. You got to take the risk of maybe asking too little of yourself, but not giving up and working out, or ask for too much and then it's not sustainable and figure it out. But again, I can really help you listen to this podcast. Hopefully I'm giving you clues, Give me for one-on-one coach. Man, why go through this frustration when I can help you? I've got a plan for you. All right. So just remember, 90% of the information isn't the game-changing information that you need, even though it may be interesting. And I told you why that is. All right. So you got to think about that as you're absorbing all these podcasts, all these videos, all these blog posts, everything on social media and on the internet, right? Okay, that's affecting your mindset, what you do, what you don't do, your understanding, and the results you do or do not get. All right? Then when you go on this journey, you got to figure out what's sustainable. You don't want to suffer too much, spend too much time, peter out, the gain stop, and now you're totally confused. All right? Got to go through that journey of maybe doing too little, not getting results, but not giving up, or still doing too much and having to tailor it back. There is a way to do this. All right, but hopefully that gives you an understanding of what it's going to take to get to the next level. All right, so that's going to do it for this Workouts for Older Men Live podcast. I'm so glad you are joining me for these series of podcasts. Meet me on all of my social media platforms, TikTok, X, Instagram, right, Facebook, YouTube, right, and visit the skiplacour.com website. Let's take on the day with a sense of urgency. We have to when we're a little bit older. We've got more time behind us than we do in front of us. Have a great day.